Hey guys, my name's AJ and welcome to my brand new channel, Murphy's Law Auto. It's the only rule you need to remember in working on cars. Anything that can go wrong, will go wrong. We got lots of excitement, racing, performance builds going on, but the main thing this channel's for is to save you thousands, showing you how to diagnose and repair simple things on your vehicle from the comfort of your garage. Very first video we got on our channel, something really easy here today. I bought this 1999 F250 with a 7.3 diesel in it. Got it for a hell of a deal. Problem being, it has a hard start condition and a no start condition. It's also got a transmission issue that we're going to talk about later. But the previous owner, as you can see, replaced our alternator, replaced both batteries, and even replaced the starter trying to get this thing to run. Couldn't figure it out. I walked up here and in 2 seconds I noticed this. This is our battery terminal for the main positive on the primary battery. Now without that, it doesn't matter how many electronic parts you throw at it, they're not going to work. Without a stable battery connection, you have nothing. So what we did is we went in and we went ahead and we replaced that cable. If you guys look right here, you can see that we have replaced our old cracked and damaged clamp with a brand new battery clamp. Put some electrolyte solution on there and some anti-corrosion gel to keep everything going. Truck fired up like it was brand new. Now we've still got a transmission issue on this truck, so let's look into that next. I bought this truck with a transmission issue. It goes into reverse and drives just fine, but if you try to put it in forward or any other gear, nothing seems to happen. So generally I would look into the torque converter, I would check the fluid level, I would make sure the fluid's clean, but this transmission just had a fluid flush and the torque converter is absolutely full because it works phenomenally in reverse. We know we've got line pressure because we've already checked into that, so we start looking into things called technical service bulletins, which is a fancy way of saying common problems that occur on these vehicles that the dealership is aware of. So you start looking at the 4R100 transmissions that came in lots of Ford vehicles, F150s, 250s, all the way up to 450s, and even several vans. These transmissions have a common issue where the solenoid pack for the transmission will go out, preventing the truck from shifting into certain gears. Now, a remanufactured one like this will cost you somewhere between $150 and $200. A new one could cost upwards of $400. Generally, I don't recommend reman parts depending on who makes them, but this one came with a 2-year warranty, and I'm pretty satisfied that I can afford to swap it out if it goes bad again. This transmission solenoid replacement isn't something I would generally recommend to someone who's new to working on cars, but if you've got some experience and it's something you're comfortable handling, definitely give it a shot if you think that you're capable of doing it. Now, again, this is a major repair on a very large heavy-duty vehicle. This is something that I would definitely recommend you have a professional do, but I'm going to go under here and show you how to do it if it's something that you're willing to try. So I've got my comfy little creeper down here, which is a lot less comfy. Oh, now that it's missing 2 wheels, likes to wobble. Yeah, I bet that's fun to watch on camera. Make you seasick. So we'll go under here and take a look at the tank pan. So one thing you can see here is a lot of dirt buildup, and it seems to be moist, and most likely what that is some kind of leak, whether it's transmission or oil. Definitely smells like transmission, and with a diesel you'll definitely know whether or not it's oil. Diesel oil has such a distinct, strong smell when it gets dirty. So we're just gonna, oh, that was really loose. That was ready to come loose. This might have been looked at or replaced recently. I think they did say they did a transmission flush, but looking at the color of the fluid, I don't know if they flushed it. I think they probably did a drain and fill, which is fine. It's still better than nothing. So while filming the last portion of this video, I realized that I got some oil on the lens. It turned out pretty blurry. There was also a pretty substantial glare in the background. The light has died down a little bit now, and I did make a run to the parts store to get transmission fluid and a transmission filter, since we're already tearing the pan off, as well as a trans pan gasket to keep the fluid from leaking out if this gasket happens to be bad, especially since we saw some oily residue and stuff. It's just best to just go ahead and swap it while we're down here. But hopefully the video quality will be a little better now that we fixed that oil on the lens problem. So let's get back to it. So what we're gonna do now that we've got the majority of this drained out is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start loosening all these bolts around the outside of the trans pans. Now from in here, there shouldn't be anything else that we have to worry about taking off. At this point, there is a sensor up top that we're gonna have to disconnect, but we're not ready for that yet. For now, let's start getting these bolts off. So the best way, in my opinion, to get these pans off is to loosen every bolt except the 4 corners, and then go back and loosen the 2 forward side ones, and then leave them in just a thread or 2, and then remove these 2 corner ones, which will allow you to tilt the pan down like this. You'll be able to see how much fluid is left because it'll slowly start leaching out here, and then you can come back up here. In this case, I'm going to have to use my impact, but usually you can finger loosen those bolts. Oh, where is my impact? I'm going to lose my impact. It's huge. There it is. Alright. So, we'll come back here, and this is the part that's going to make a mess on the floor. Probably could put down some rags or something first, but you don't have to. Helps with cleanup later on, but you don't absolutely have to. So right now we've got the pan completely loose, and we can slowly drop it down. Whoop. Feel some resistance. Did we miss one? I don't think so. I think we're just sitting on. There it comes. Alright, and you can see a big gush of fluid coming out. You want to try and get that into your pan before you take this off, because it's really awkward to try and do this all upside down. So you want to slowly tip it forward like that, the direction of the drain hole. That'll drain most of this fluid out before you get the pan off. But you will eventually reach a point where you can just take it off. Right there you can see the filter is draining down into my pan. You might not be at the best angle to see it, but we can see the transmission filter, which on this model does not have a bolt that secures it. You can actually see that it's loose. I can move it with my hand. There's nothing stopping it from moving. So let's move the camera and get you a better angle. So now we can see this transmission filter, which we're about to drop. Whew, this pan is really full. So we're going to take this filter. It's got an O-ring, so you just kind of gently spin it. It doesn't take much. You can flip that over, dump the remainder of this fluid out. Look how much is in there. That's so much fluid. So much. So we're going to put that at an angle so it continues to drain while we get back to work. This is a really messy project. It's not very difficult, but it is, like I said, it is a mess. So we've got bolts over here, and I'll do what I can to get the camera in a position where you can see it, but we can now see the part that we need to replace, which is this transmission solenoid pack. This is the part we're worried about replacing today. We've got, let's see, 8, 9, feels like 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, we got 10 bolts that hold this on, and then this actually goes out the top. This is a solenoid, and it goes out the top. So there's a wire connector kind of behind this plate up under this area that we're going to have to disconnect before we can pull this out the bottom. But pretty easy. We've got some 10mm bolts and then some Torx bit bolts here. Pretty simple set of sockets. If you wanted to do this job at home, it really isn't very difficult. Just make sure you don't mess with any of the screws or bolts or valves or anything here or here. We just want to touch this little 10-bolt section that holds the solenoid in place, because all the rest of these hold detent springs, balls, all sorts of complicated parts that you're not going to want to mess with unless you're a transmission expert, because once you get them out of place, it is very difficult to get them back where they go, and it's going to cause a lot of trouble with your transmission if you don't get them back. Update for you guys here. The video I was recording became corrupt. I let the video go for too long. My GoPro ran out of memory, and when it runs out of memory, it actually corrupts the file that it's currently recording. I'm working on getting a new GoPro. Costs a little more money than I've got right now, but that hopefully will be an issue we have resolved soon. Essentially, all that happened was I pulled the 10 bolts out. We pulled the solenoid down, we reached up, we disconnected the solenoid connector, tossed the old solenoid pack out of the way, took the new one, shoved it up in there, clipped the connector on, put the 10 bolts on. It was all you missed. It wasn't anything exciting. It was almost an hour of footage. I will tell you that. It was a lot of little annoying things. It was wiggling things around and just trying to get them to pop out. It was me Google searching to make sure I didn't break it because I've never done this before. Apparently the O-ring that goes around that solenoid connector is really, really stiff and you have to pull really hard to get it to let go. I didn't want to break anything, so rather than be sorry later, to be safe, I went and looked at Google, made sure that I wasn't going to break it by pulling on it, went back under there, pulled real hard, got it to let go. Alright guys, sorry to change formats on you in the middle of the video, but our GoPro has died for the night. I'll have to get that ready for tomorrow, but basically what we've done while you were away was we cleaned up the mating surface and the inside of this pan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the better it is, the easier it's going to be the next time you change the fluid to know whether or not you've got a problem. Put this magnet back here where it belongs on that ring. Check your hands. Whatever was in this transmission was old. They definitely didn't do the fluid recently. Stained my whole hand. Nice and gross. That's after washing my hands for like a half an hour. Could not get it off. But we will go ahead and go into here. We got our filter there, if it'll stay. And then we've got our transmission pan gasket. So we'll get this all lined up and ready to install. We'll go underneath, we'll slide the filter in, we'll slide this pan on, and then I'll come back up top and we'll show you how to do the rest.